Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi wa kafa, wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'da wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, we are in the text Al-Masir Fi Ilm it-Tafsir, and we are looking at ayat 74 to 89 of Surah Az-Zukhraf. So we're at the end of closing off Surah Al-Zukhraf, the 43rd surah. And the Imam, he says, Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he says, quote, "And when the Exalted One said, and that is the paradise," meaning what was mentioned in the ayah before. And when he says, "enter the paradise," which you have been made to inherit, which means that you've been promised it, not that you've inherited from anything that you've done. Now, the commentary on this was already discussed in Surah Al-Ahqaf, the 7th surah, ayah 43. The Exalted One then next tells us after this, إِنَّ الْمُجْرِمِينَ فِي عَذَابِ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدُونَ لا يفتر عنهم وهم فيه مبلسون وما ظلمناهم ولكن كانوا هم الظالمين ونادوا يا مالك ليقض علينا ربك قال إنكم ماكثون لقد جئناكم بالحق ولكن أكثركم للحق كارهون أم أبرموا أمرا فإنا مبرمون أم يحسبون أنا لا نسمع سرهم ونجواهم بلى ورسلنا لديهم يكتبون قل إن كان للرحمن ولد فأنا أول العابدين سبحان رب السماوات والأرض رب العرش عما يصفون فذرهم يخوضوا ويلعبوا حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي يوعدون وهو الذي في السماء إله وفي الأرض إله وهو الحكيم العليم وتبارك الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض وما بينهما وعنده علم الساعة وإليه ترجعون ولا يملك الذين يدعون من دونه الشفاعة إلا من شهد بالحق وهم يعلمون ولئن سألتهم من خلقهم ليقولن الله فأنى يؤفكون وقيله يا رب إن هؤلاء قوم لا يؤمنون فاصفح عنهم وقل سلام فسوف يعلمون. Indeed, the criminals are in the great punishment of the fire for all eternity. There will be no relief or way for them to flee while they are waiting in it. We did not oppress them, but they used to oppress themselves. They shall call out at that point, O Malik, let your Lord put an end to us at this time. Malik will respond, No, you are to remain forevermore. Already we came to you with truth, but most of you hated the truth. Or whenever a matter was presented, they went to the matter and they fled from it while the truth was brought forward by us. Or do they think that we do not hear their secrets and their hidden counsels? Indeed, our messengers were with them, writing down as witnesses that which they spoke of conspiratorially. Say, if the most merciful had a child or offspring, I would have been the first to be the worshipper. Glorified is the Lord of the skies and the earth, the Lord of the throne. Glorified is him from that which they ascribe to him. Leave them alone to dispute and play, until the day that is meant to meet them shall come to them unaware, the very day which they were promised. He is the one who in the sky is the God, and who in the earth is the God, and he is the all-wise, the all-knowing. And blessed is the one who he has the dominion of the skies and the earth and what's between them. And in his sight is the knowledge of the hour, and to him shall you all return. And those who they call on from besides him do have no control over the intercession, except whoever bore witness with the testimony of truth, and they know. Had you asked them who created them, they would have said, Allah. So how is it that they are deluded? And it shall be said, O Lord, indeed, these are a people who do not believe. Pardon them for a period of time and say, peace. They shall certainly come to know when the time arrives. Surah Az-Zukhraf, the 43rd Surah, ayat 74 to 89. And when the Exalted One says the criminals, these are the unbelievers, and the punishment shall not be lightened from them while they are wading in that wrath. Ibn Qutaybah said that they shall be far from the mercy of Allah. And we've discussed the meaning of this in Surah An'am, the 6th Surah, ayah 44. And when the Exalted One says, we did not oppress them, meaning we did not punish them without their having committed a sin, but they actually oppressed themselves because of how they sinned against the truth and how they had gone far astray. And they shall call out. Now Ali ibn Abi Talib ibn Mas'ud and Ibn Ya'mar recite this as Ya Mal, Ya Mali, without the kaf, according to one narration. Az-Zajjaj has said this is something that's been discussed according to the scholars of grammar, but the dominant recitation is that which we have. The scholars of commentary, they say, when they call after Malik, who is the guardian over the fire, they shall say, let your Lord put an end to us, meaning let us die, so that we shall be no more. So they shall actually seek him out so that he might ask Allah in intercession for them to die, so that they might have relief from the fire. But he shall not answer their claim. Now, when shall they seek this question? Well, some scholars have said it shall be after they're in the fire for 40 years. This was said by Abdullah ibn Amr and Muqatil. While Anas ibn Malik said after 30 years, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said after 1,000 years, and Ka'ab said after 100. Now, the reason why Malik was silent, this angel was silent for so long, there's two reasons why he didn't answer them for a period of time. One is that he was silent until Allah revealed to him what he was to answer them with. And because between their calling out to him and his answering, He wanted them to receive the maximum humiliation so they might think of the severity of the idolatry and things that they had done, as said by Al-Mawardi. And when Malik answers them back by saying, you shall remain, meaning that you live in the fire, this is your home. And then Allah the Exalted said, we came to you with clear truth, meaning we sent our messengers with Tawheed, but most of you, Ibn Abbas said, meaning humanity, all of them, hated that which Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. Or do they not know the truth? So some of them made plans against the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this earthly life in order to kill him or expel him when they gathered in the place of a nedwa. Now we've already explained this narrative in Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th Surah Ayah 30, as the vast majority of commentators discussed. It's also their coming together to reject the prophets, and specifically him, as mentioned by Qatada, that they thought that someone else would rectify their matter and save them from the punishment of the fire. That's said by Al-Farra. And they thought that someone might give them protection. Or do they think that we do not hear that which they say in secret in their secret conspiratorial councils among themselves? But Allah is showing that He indeed does hear. And He said, our messengers, meaning the preserving angels that write down the deeds, are with them writing. Now, the next ayah, say if the Most Merciful had a child or offspring. The expression in here, if he had a child or offspring according to your understanding and according to your claims, I would be the first of the worshippers, meaning that I would be the first to deny any partner to him and worship him and glorify him. And this is what expression is being referred to here. So Ibn Abbas was saying, it is as if this ayah is saying, Allahu Akbar, I am the first of the worshippers who denies that Allah has a child. It also means I am the first of those who worship Allah in contradiction to your statement. And this is the statement of Mujahid. As Az-Zajjaj said, the ayah means that if you claim that the Most Merciful has a child or offspring, I am the first to declare that Allah is one and unique. And thirdly, I am the first one to glorify Allah from that which you say. So, just as indeed I am the first one to worship Allah, and likewise there's no child or offspring for him. And this is just as you say, if you were writing down some falsehood and saying that he had some offspring, I would be the first to deny that and worship Allah alone. So this is referring to the fact that if you had claimed that Allah had offspring, if it was as you claim, I would be the first one to worship Allah in sincerity that there's no child for him, in all truth. Then he says, now leave them, meaning the unbelievers of Mecca, to dispute in falsehood and play around in their earthly life, until there comes to them the time where they shall meet that which they were promised, which is the day of resurrection. Now this ayah has been abrogated regarding leaving the unbelievers in terms of the trial and the difficulties of bringing the believers. To leave the unbelievers, this has been abrogated according to the vast majority by Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, Ayah 5. And when the Exalted One said, He is the one who is in the sky, the God, and in the earth, the God. It means, according to Mujahid and Qatada, that He is the one who's worshipped in the sky and the earth. as Az-Zajjaj said, it refers to the fact that he's one and unique in the sky and the earth to those that worship him. Now, it's been recited by Umar ibn al-Khattab, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Sumayfa', Ibn Ya'mar al-Jahidi, هو الذي في السماء الله وفي الأرض الله, which is different to the other recitation. Now, whatever other ayat come after this, the ayat that come after this, and no one has any intercession that you call on besides him. So from ayat 81 to 84, the commentary on these ayat has already been discussed in Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th Surah, ayah 54, and Surah Luqman, the 31st Surah, ayah 34. Now, when the Exalted One says, no one has any intercession that you call on from besides him, the reason why this was revealed is that another Ibn al-Harith and a group along with him sat down and they said, if what Muhammad had said was true, we would have turned and taken the angels as allies, for they have the most right to intercession, more than Muhammad does. So this ayah was sent down as a refutation to them. And Muqatil gave this commentary. In the meaning of the ayah, it's referring to the fact that whoever intends by those he's calling on from besides Allah as gods, such as those that call on Isa or Uzair or the angels, whoever asked for their intercession who does not believe that there's no God but Allah, and they know in their hearts what their tongues testify to, whoever does not have this condition before, their intercession is rejected because they are committing idolatry. And this is the commentary of the vast majority, from among them Qatada. But those who call on others in intercession besides Allah, Isa, Uzair, or the angels, and they associate partners with Allah, there's no intercession for anyone who associates partners with Allah. And the true word of sincerity is that there's no God but Allah. And they know, meaning those who believe know that Allah created Isa and Uzair and the angels. This ayah is a proof that the condition for all testimonies is that the witness must know that which he's bearing witness to in order to give his testimony. So when Allah said, so it was said to him, say, my Lord. So here you see the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this ayah complaining to his Lord about his people. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said, he complained to Allah about his people and their not having faith. Ibn Kathir, Nafi, Ibn Amr, and Abu Amr recited as وَقِيلَهُ instead of وَقِيلِهِ. Or do they think that we do not hear their secret counsels? Meaning their statements, their idle chatter. And then when Allah the Exalted says, and in His sight is the knowledge of the hour. Meaning He knows the hour. He knows what's coming before. He knows what is to be. And the internal details and all other matters of it. So, stay away from them and exercise caution and say words of peace. Say salam. Now, say salam here means say a good word that changes an evil word. It's said by As-Sudai. Practice righteousness towards them. It's said by Muqatil. And say, you shall not be pardoned from your evil unless you repent. And they will certainly come to know. They shall certainly come to know the end result of their unbelief. They shall know that you are truly a prophet. They shall know when the punishment is revealed. And this is actually a threat that Allah is giving to them. But in another recitation, that of Nafi' ibn Amr, it is, was فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, and you shall come to know. Now, whoever recites this, فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ, then here, the Prophet ﷺ is being addressed, because he's speaking to them in this way. But whoever is reciting it, فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, is being directly addressed. Now, the ayah, Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah 5, abrogates staying away from hostility towards the unbelievers and giving them salam in all circumstances, as was previously the case. We now come to Surah Ad-Dukhan. This surah is a Meccan surah in totality by consensus. And the Exalted One, he starts by saying, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hamim. Wal kitabil mubin. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah. إنا كنا منذرين فيها يفرق كل أمر حكيم أمرا من عندنا إنا كنا مرسلين رحمة من ربك إنه هو السميع العليم رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين لا إله إلا هو يحيي ويميت ربكم ورب آبائكم الأولين بل هم في شك يلعبون فارتقب يوم تأتي السماء بدخان مبين يغشى الناس هذا عذاب أليم ربنا اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون أنى لهم الذكرى وقد جاءهم رسول مبين ثم تولوا عنه وقالوا معلم مجنون إنا كاشف العذاب قليلا إنكم عائدون يوم نبطش البطشة الكبرى إنا منتقمون ولقد فتنا قبلهم قوم فرعون وجاءهم رسول كريم أن أدوا إلي عباد الله إني لكم رسول أمين. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Hamim. By the clear book. Indeed, we sent it down in a blessed night, and we have given warning with it. And in it, every matter has been clearly distinguished and delineated. Every matter from in our sight, because we sent it down as a mercy from your Lord. And He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing, the Lord of the skies and the earth and what's between them, if you are sincere and certain. There is no God but He, the ever-living, the one who gives life, the one who gives death. Your Lord and the Lord of your ancestors before. Indeed, they are in doubt, playing about in their vanities. But take heed of a day in which the sky shall look like clear smoke burnished. People shall be overwhelmed, exclaiming, "This is a great punishment indeed. Our Lord, lift from us the punishment. We believe." How shall it be for them the remembrance, and already there came to them a clear messenger beforehand? Then they turned away from him, saying, "He is only a mad or demon-possessed teacher." Indeed, the lifting of the punishment for them was but little, and you shall return back to the truth, on a day in which we shall grasp them with a great taking and of shaking, and we shall be the avengers. Already we tested the people of Pharaoh before them, and there came to them a noble messenger, in which it was said to them to release forward unto me the slaves of Allah. And indeed you have a messenger that is trustworthy. Surah Ad-Dukhan, the 44th Surah, ayat 1 to 18. The Exalted One mentions Hamim by the clear book. Now we've already given explanation of these disjointed letters in Surahs Al-Mu'min and Az-Zukhraf, as well as the discussion of the oath that was taken by Allah. Indeed, we sent it down. This is regarding the book, which is the Quran, in a blessed night. Now, the blessed night refers to two things. Number one, Laylatul Qadr. And this is the understanding of the vast majority. Ikrimah narrated from Ibn Abbas, who said, "The Quran was sent from the sight of the Most Merciful on the night of power in one instant. It came down to the lowest sky. Then it was sent down in intervals." Muqatil said, "The entire Quran was sent down in the night of power from the preserved tablet to the lowest sky." The second thing that the blessed night refers to is the 15th day of the month of Sha'ban, the 15th night of the month of Sha'ban. And this was said by Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl. And when the Exalted One is said, "Indeed we are the warners," meaning to give warning of the punishment of our wrath. And in that night, every matter was made reference to and distinguished. The matter that was meant to be given, the wise matter, the decisive matter. Ibn Abbas said, "There was written down in the night of power from the mother of the book, the basis of the book, the essence of the book, and the night of power, what was to be in that year from the evil and the righteousness, the sustenance of everyone, who was to die, even who was to make Hajj, and so forth." And indeed, you will see the man who goes around in the market and his name is written down on who shall die and who shall be and who shall not die. And that man will die at his time, and the other man will not die because it's not his time. Ikrimah mentioned that this was mentioned as the night of Sha'ban, that these things take place. Now, there is some disrupted chains of transmission where there are contradictory narrators. And in one narration, Ikrimah said it's the 15th of Sha'ban, 15th night of Sha'ban. But in another narration, he said it is the night of power. However, all the commentators besides him understand that the blessed night being referred to is the night of power. When the Exalted One says this is a matter from in our sight, from us, meaning that we sent the Quran down as a command and as a mercy. And so the mercy, in this sense as well, can be referring to the Prophet ﷺ, who was also sent. And he was sent with this Quran. So we sent him as a mercy to whoever believed in him. And a command from ourselves. And whatever was to be. And indeed we sent the prophets as a mercy from us to our creation. Inna kunna mursilina rahma. We sent the prophets as a mercy from ourselves to the creation, the Lord of all the skies. Rabbis samawat. Now Ibn Kathir, Nafi', Abu Amr, and Ibn Amr recited as Rabbus samawat. While Hamza al-Kasai, Abu Bakr from Asim and others recited as Rabbis samawat. But the unbelievers are in doubt regarding that which we brought forward, and they are playing about in their vanities. Take heed of a day in which the sky shall become as pitch smoke. Now, this Dukhan, this smoke, the scholars of commentary differ as to which exact smoke this is referring to, because there are three major incidents where the sky appears like this. Number one is the smoke that comes before the day of resurrection. It is narrated from Ibn Abbas, who narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, "Indeed, the smoke shall come, it shall take the souls of the unbelievers, but the believers, it shall take the amount of believers as like what comes out of the sneeze of a man." Now it was narrated by Abdullah ibn Abi Mulaika, who said, I came into the presence of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu one day, and he said, I've not slept in the night until morning came. And I said, why have you not slept? He said, the stars rose to their highest point, but I feared that the smoke might be brought about, and that the trial might be brought to pass on that day. And this is the meaning of what was narrated from Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ibn Umar, Abu Hurairah, and Al-Hasan al-Basri. The second understanding of the smoke is that the Quraysh, when they denied the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he cursed them with a famine for years on end. and they saw between the sky and themselves a smoke. This is collected by Imams Al-Bukhari and Muslim from Masruq. Masruq said, we were in the presence of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu one day when a man came into our presence and he said, I came to you from the masjid and I just left a man who said that this ayah, a day in which the sky shall come looking like clear smoke, he said this ayah meant that they shall be on the day of resurrection overwhelmed with a smoke that shall take their souls until it takes from them like what comes from the sneeze of a man. Abdullah Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, whoever knows a piece of knowledge, let him speak of it. And whoever did not know, let him say, Allahu Alam. This was only said because the Quraysh, when they came to the Prophet ﷺ and they denied him and disobeyed him, he made dua against them that they be struck with a famine, like the famine from the time of Nabiyyuna Yusuf alayhi salam. And so a famine came upon them, and they suffered great trials until they ate the bones and dead flesh of animals and their carcasses. One man looked towards the sky, and he felt like he could see between them and the sky was smoke out of the severity of his hunger. And the people, they cried out and said the words that are in this ayah, Lord, lift from us this punishment, and we will believe. Allah the Exalted said, indeed, the punishment shall be lifted for a little while, but they shall return back. And the moment Allah lifted the punishment from them, they returned right back to their rejecting faith. And not long after this came the Battle of Badr, where those that said those very words were killed. Then the Exalted One said, on a day in which they shall be taken with a great snare. Now, the smoke, the third reference to smoke, is connected with the ayah on a day in which we shall take them with a great ensnaring. This refers to the smoke on the day of the conquest of Mecca, when the sky was covered in smoke from the marching troops of the Muslims. This was mentioned by Al-Mawardi. Now, when the Exalted One is said, this is a punishment, meaning they say, this punishment, our Lord lift it from us, meaning the hunger and the famine, and also the smoke. We will believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran. Allah said, indeed, shall they really remember? Where did they get this remembrance from? after this trial has come to them and their conditions like this, when a clear messenger came to them? No, they will turn away from the truth. And they won't accept his words. And they said, a mad or demon-possessed teacher. So he is a student that is taught evil from a demon. And then he brings it forward and says this is prophethood. Allah the Exalted said, the punishment shall be lifted for a little while. And the punishment that they suffered is the harm that they went through in the famine. Was said by Ibn Mas'ud and Muqatil. And that the relief from the punishment lasted from the time it was lifted until the Battle of Badr. The same thing was said by Qatada, but he made reference to the smoke. And indeed, you shall return, meaning you shall return to the major shirk that you did. You shall return to the punishment of Allah, as said by Ibn Mas'ud and Qatada, on a day in which they shall be taken by a great ensnarement. Meaning, remember a day in which we shall take them with a great ensnarement, which is the day of Badr, as mentioned by Ibn Mas'ud, Ubay ibn Ka'ab, Abu Hurairah, Abu Al-Aliyah, Mujahid, and Dhahak, and also a general reference to the day of resurrection, as said by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan, and others. Already we tested before them, meaning before your people, the people of the Pharaoh, by sending Musa to them, and there came to them a noble messenger. This Rasulun Kareem is referring to Nabiyuna Musa ibn Imran alayhi salam. And Kareem, he's referred to as Kareem because he has good character towards others and good character in himself. And he is noble with his Lord. As said by Muqatil and Al-Farra, he is noble and blessed in lineage, said by Abu Sulaiman al-Damashqi. So, release forward the slaves of Allah who are calling for the truth, who are my followers, because all of them are slaves of Allah, to that which He, Allah, ordered them to do. Send forward, free the children of Israel, and release them from your punishment. And do not exalt yourselves in the earth over Allah. Then the Exalted One, He said, وَأَلَّا تَعْلُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي آتِيكُمْ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ وَإِنِّي عُذْتُ بِرَبِّي وَرَبِّكُمْ أَن تَرْجُمُونَ وَإِن لَّمْ تُؤْمِنُوا لِي فَاعْتَزِلُونِ فدعا ربه أن هؤلاء قوم مجرمون فأسر بعبادي ليلا إنكم متبعون واترك البحر رهوا إنهم جند مغرقون كم تركوا من جنات وعيون وزروع ومقام كريم ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين كذلك وأورثناها قوما آخرين فما بكت عليهم السماء والأرض وما كانوا منظرين ولقد نجينا بني إسرائيل من العذاب المهين من فرعون إنه كان عاليا من المسرفين ولقد اخترناهم على علم على العالمين وآتيناهم من الآيات ما فيه بلاء مبين إن هؤلاء ليقولون إن هي إلا موتنا الأولى وما نحن بمنشرين فأتوا بآبائنا إن كنتم صادقين أهم خير أم قوم تبع والذين من قبلهم أهلكناهم إنهم كانوا مجرمين وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين وما خلقناهما إلا بالحق ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. And it's not that you should exalt yourselves above Allah. Indeed, I, Musa, have only come to you with clear authority. And indeed, I seek refuge in my Lord and your Lord, lest you should be punished and stoned. And even if you do not believe in me, then set yourselves apart and refrain. So he called on his Lord that these are people that are criminal. And my slaves, in one night they shall come forward, and you shall be following the truth. Set forward, and bring the body of water forward, and the army shall be drowned. How many have they left from their gardens and their springs, their irrigated areas and their noble places? That which they were led astray by. Likewise, we caused it to be inherited by another people. The sky and the earth did not weep over them, nor did they mourn at their destruction. And indeed, we had saved the children of Israel from the punishment, from Pharaoh. Indeed, he was mighty and high, exalting himself in the earth and exaggerating. Already we chose them over certain knowledge over the rest of the creation. We gave them the signs of a great trial that was to come to them. And these people, they received what they were to say. But others said, there is to be nothing but this first death, and we will not be resurrected. If the resurrection is really to come, then bring back our forefathers, if you're telling the truth. Are these people any better than the people of Tuba and those who came before them? We destroyed them as well, and they were criminals. We did not create the skies and the earth and what's between them for sport and play and jest. We only created them in truth, but most of them do not know. Surah Ad-Dukhan, the 44th surah, ayat 19 to 39. And when the Exalted One has mentioned that other nations were tested before them, as we mentioned before, and they were told not to exalt themselves, as said by Ibn Abbas, not to hold yourselves above the earth and exalt yourselves, as said by Ibn Jurayj. And then Nabiyyuna Musa alayhi salam said, I've come to you with clear authority, with a proof as evidence, so that they should not say that he was a poet or a madman, and that they wouldn't try to kill him, as said by As-Sudayy and others. And if you don't believe in me, then leave me, so that I might carry out my obligations. But they rejected faith and they didn't believe. So he called on his Lord, saying that these people are criminals, idol worshippers, and Allah answered his supplication by assisting the believers. And the Pharaoh followed after them, he and his people. And Allah informed him that the Pharaoh and his people were following him, and that this will be a cause for their being drowned. And when the waters were split, into two halves. And the people went across. The Pharaoh and his army entered down to chase them, and they were ultimately drowned. So the Pharaoh and his army were drowned, completely destroyed. And when Allah says, وَاتْرُكَ الْبَحْرَ رَهْوًا, that leave open the place where the waters parted and leave it dry. So the portion that the children of Israel walked on to go across was dry. And the army that was destroyed was drowned with a mighty ensnarement. So how many were left over after their drowning? What was left over after their drowning of the gardens? Mentioned in Surah Al-Shu'ara, the 26th Surah, 57. And the good life that they had. We caused another people to inherit it after them, meaning the children of Israel. The sky didn't weep over them, meaning over the Pharaoh and his consorts. In reality, the sky showed no weeping. There is a hadith from Anas bin Malik in which the Prophet ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah, he said, any Muslim that there are two doors in the sky for him. There was one door in which his deeds ascend up to, and another door where his sustenance descends down from. When he dies, they both weep. And this is collected by Imam Tirmidhi. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said, indeed, the believer, when he dies, the places on the earth where he used to pray weep for him. And the place where his deeds used to go and come down weep for him, as mentioned in the hadith. The Pharaoh and his consorts, there was nowhere in the earth where he prayed, nor anywhere in the sky where any good deeds came down for him. So when Allah said, neither the sky nor earth weep for them, it meant that there was nowhere for them to be wept for, because there was nowhere where they did real worship. Ibn Abbas who said that symbolically it can be said in Arabic that the reddening of the sky is its weeping. Mujahid said that the hadith refers to the fact that the believer, when he dies, the sky and earth weep for him for 40 mornings. And then he said, and whatever's in the earth, the slave weeps out of the earth weeps out of the bowing and prostration that he used to do. The sky out of the glorification of Allah that he used to do. And the people of the sky and the earth, the angels, they don't weep over the Pharaoh and his consorts, as said by Al-Hasan al-Basri. Remember when Allah says, حَتَّى تَضَعَ الْحَرْبُ أَوْزَارَهَا, until the war has laid down its burdens. Surah Muhammad, the 47th Surah, Ayah 4. Meaning, until the people of war have laid down their burdens. So it's not referring, according to some scholars of commentary, to the actual sky and earth itself weeping, but those in the skies and earth from the angels. They don't weep over the Pharaoh and the consorts. Just like when it says, wait until war has laid down its burdens, war doesn't have any burdens to lay down, but rather the people engaged in war have laid their burdens down. So this is a metaphor. And the Arabs, when they intend to show the grand nature of something in the Arabic language, they refer to it in these ways. For example, they refer to the sun shining its light or giving its, or bringing its shade, or dispensing with shade by its light. The moon eclipsing, the wind howling, the sky and the earth weeping, and other such things. They are used to emphasize a point. Now, in the Arabic language, this isn't lying. What this is its emphasis, which is known as mubalagha, because they are all emphasizing a point. For example, when someone says the sun became darkened or was almost overshadowed, the sun doesn't get overshadowed or darkened. We know this from our knowledge of science. But it is a reference to the fact of it is like this has happened. It is an exaggeration to drive home a point. Just like when someone says the sun rises weeping upon him, it doesn't mean that the sun is shedding tears, or that the stars or the moon shed tears, because that is not what they do. These are metaphors, and Allah the Exalted destroyed the people of the household of Pharaoh, and no one wept over them. No one lost time over them. And this is what was referred to by Ibn Qutayba. And we saved the children of Israel from the punishment, meaning their male children being killed and their females being spared, and them being forced to labor under the care of the Pharaoh and his consorts. For he exalted himself. He was a tyrant in the land. And we chose them, meaning the children of Israel, and the knowledge of Allah over all the other nations in their time. We gave them of the signs, like the parting of the water, the darkening of the clouds, the sending down of the manna and the salwa, and other signs. That was a clear test. But it was also a favor. Then he, Allah, after discussing this, goes back to the story of the idol worshippers of Mecca and says, these people, they say, there is no life but our first life, which is the earthly life, and we shall not be raised or resurrected. Then they say in mockery, bring back our forefathers if you're telling the truth, and you want to prove resurrection is a fact. This is clear ignorance from any idol worshipper for two reasons. Number one, they've seen the signs already that are a clear indication, and these matters should not be mocked. Number two, they'll be brought back for resurrection, and this is in the hereafter, not in the earthly life. So the punishment of previous nations is enough to make them understand what would be the point in people being resurrected now in totality when it is not their time. Are they better, meaning in power and might, or the people of Tubba? Of course these people aren't better than the people of Tubba, for they were stronger. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said that I have not been informed and do not know whether Tubba was a prophet or other than a prophet according to what's been mentioned in the Quran. Aisha radiallahu anha said, do not curse Tubba, for indeed he was a righteous man. Don't you see that Allah the Exalted rebuked his people but did not rebuke him? Wahab ibn Munabbih said that Tubba became Muslim but his people did not. So his people are mentioned but Tubba isn't mentioned. So originally Tubba had worshipped the fire, then he became Muslim. And he called his people to the truth. This was in Himyar. He called his people to Islam, the original Tubba, but they denied him. As far as the name Tubba, Abu Ubaidah said, every king from the kings of Yemen used to be named Tubba as a title or appellation. It was a title in the days of ignorance. Just like the expression Khalifa in Islam. Someone was named Tubba because of his followers, because Tubba means someone who's followed by a lot of people. Just as much as the man Tubba, his actual name was Malkaykarib. And the people of Tubba were mentioned because they were the closest people in destruction to the idol worshippers of Mecca in terms of time period. Now the ayat that come after this, Allah has already discussed the commentary, and so have we. And Surah Al-Anbiya, the 21st Surah, ayah 16, and Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th Surah, 85. Then the Exalted One, he says, إن يوم الفصل ميقاتهم أجمعين يوم لا يغني مولا عن مولا شيئا ولا هم ينصرون إلا من رحم الله إنه هو العزيز الرحيم إن شجرة الزقوم طعام الأثيم كالمهل يغلي في البطون كغلي الحميم خذوه فاعتلوه إلى سواء الجحيم ثم صبوا فوق رأسه من عذاب الحميم ذق إنك أنت العزيز الكريم إن هذا ما كنتم به تمترون إن المتقين في مقام أمين في جنات وعيون يلبسون من سندس وإستبرق متقابلين كذلك وزوجناهم بحور عين يدعون فيها بكل فاكهة آمنين لا يذوقون فيها الموت إلا الموتة الأولى ووقاهم عذاب الجحيم فضلا من ربك ذلك هو الفوز العظيم فإنما يسرناه بلسانك لعلهم يتذكرون فارتقب إنهم مرتقبون. Indeed, the day of sorting out, they shall have all of them their places laid out. A day in which one master shall not have dominance over another master in any way possible, nor will there be any reprieve for them, except whoever Allah had mercy on. Indeed, He is the Almighty, the most compassionate. Indeed, consider the tree of Zaqqum, food for the sinners, that tears up the bellies and innards, like blazing scalding water. Take hold of it, and carry this to the great fire with yourselves. Then it shall be poured over the head of that one from the scalding punishment water. Taste, indeed. Taste of this. Indeed, you are the Almighty, the All-Generous. And this and that which you had been in doubt of, the pious ones are in a higher place, a more noble place, in gardens and streams. They are wearing finery and linen, facing one another in raised places. Likewise, we married them to the maidens of Hur. They shall be calling therein and asking for every fine fruit and be in safety. They shall not taste in that paradise any death. There was no death except the first death. And they shall be saved from the great punishment of the fire. A virtue from your Lord. That is the great salvation. Indeed, we have made it easy to put this on your tongue so that they might take remembrance. So take heed that they might take heed. Wait so that they might wait. Surah Ad-Dukhan, the 44th surah, ayat 40 to 59. The Exalted One, when he mentions the day of sorting out and the penalty that is coming, that penalty has already been discussed before. And the day of sorting out, Allah shall sort out between the slaves, and they each have their places, all of them, the very first peoples and the last people. And no master can benefit anyone else, meaning no relative can benefit any other near relative. No master or protector can protect anyone else. No one's lineage, no one's power, no one's strength is of any benefit. No cousin has any strength to help another. No brother. There shall be no reprieve from the punishment of Allah, except whoever Allah has given His mercy to. And who are they? They are the believers. For indeed, the believers shall make intercession for one another. The tree of Zaqum. Indeed, remember this. This was mentioned in Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah, ayah 62. It is the food for the sinners, the rebellious ones. Now, the first one being referred to here is Abu Jahl, although all sinners are referenced. As for another expression mentioned regarding this, it's in Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th Surah, ayah 29. It shall tear up the innards of those. So the innards being tore up, the ayah references Yaghli, which Ibn Kathir, Ibn Amr, Hafs and Asim recited as Yaghli, while the rest recited as Taghli. So the penalty being given is coming unto them. This is scalding hot water that is overflowing. Take it. Now, this is being said to the Zabaniya, the angels of wrath and punishment that Allah has. So when it expresses khuduhu, take hold of it, the Zabaniya, which are referred to in Surah Iqra, are taking hold of this scalding water and taking it over to douse and pour over the heads of those that reject. Those waiting in the middle of the fire. So these ayats specifically refer to Abu Jahl, although they're general to every unbeliever, but this refers to their leaders. And so this is being doused over their head, where the scalding water and other molten things are in metal pails. And when it's poured over, it exposes the actual innards of the heads of those people and tears through their bodies. But then more scalding water is poured over and the heat increases and it tears their innards, even if they drink from it. Taste the punishment. And then Allah says to them, rebuking them, weren't you the Almighty, the most generous? إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْكَرِيمُ. Because Abu Jahl had said, and used to say, I am the mightiest of the Quraysh, and the most generous of them. So here Allah is returning this expression back to him. So aren't you generous and mighty according to your expression? So really Allah is rebuking with this, because how can someone be named as being almighty when he's not so? So Allah is saying this to him to rebuke him in mockery of his mockery. As said by Sa'id ibn Jubayr al-Muqatil, you thought that you yourself was might. You thought that you yourself had might. You thought you were mighty among your people and noble in your family. But this was not the case. Do not be in doubt about these matters. The righteous are in a noble place that they shall never exit from. A place of calm and peace where they are safe therein. There are none of the accidents and incidentals of the earthly life. And we've mentioned Jannat and Uyun in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second Surah 35. And Uyun and other things in Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th Surah, Ayat 44 and 47. And Sundus and Istabraq in Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th Surah 31. And likewise, the matter that we have described, we shall marry them to the maidens of Hur of Ain. The scholars of commentary say, so they shall be married unto them, but there is not between them covenants of marriage as how we have covenants of marriage in the same degree. So it means that the people, the men of the people of the paradise shall be declared as spouses of the women of the paradise. So it will be said to a man, this one has been married to you. This one has been married to you. And they have therefore been made one, a pair. So they've been made 2 by 2 and more. They shall be married unto them. Abu Ali al-Farisi has said, the revelation has been clear on this matter. We shall certainly marry them unto you. Surah Al-Ahzab, the 33rd Surah, 37. So the Hur are a type of pure women who have eyes without sclera, and are pure in form and shape. The portions of the eye, of where the pupil would be, are of a very deep black color. Much of this was discussed in Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah 48. And those safe in the paradise shall call out in goodness, because it is the end of time and measurements and all suffering. They shall have everything that they need. There shall be no death except the first death that there was before that time. But no death shall be tasted in the paradise. Just the same thing as Allah is emphasizing this. It's like the same thing as He said, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ آبَاؤُكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا قَدَ سَلَفَ. Do not marry those who your fathers married before of women except what's already passed. Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah, 22. This ayah does not mean that once they've done that you then marry those women. Just as much as when Allah says in the ayah, there shall be no death except the first death. That doesn't mean that there was a first death in the paradise. It means that after that first death that happened in the earthly life, there shall be no other death to come after that. Remember the other words of Allah. خالدين فيها ما دامت السماوات والأرض إلا ما شاء ربك. Surah Hud, 11th Surah, Ayah 107. They are to be forever therein as long as the skies and the earth persist except what Allah wills. This doesn't mean that they will burn out. It means permanence. So whatever Allah wills for them for increase over the goodnesses that they had in the earthly life, this is what is being referred to. Not that after or except means that it will burn out. Rather, it refers to the fact that the word only here means that what comes after is permanent and what was before was in a different place. As Zajjaj mentioned this, and then further to this, those who are saved, when they die, the soul and all of the mechanics of who they are goes to the paradise, and they shall see their places therein. When they die in the earthly life, it is as if they died in the paradise, because all of who they were in this earthly life finishes, and all of who they shall be begins. This was discussed by Qutaybah. So the illa means just that. This is a virtue from your Lord, meaning Allah did that, entering you into the paradise, forgiving you your sins, giving you eternal safety and eternal security as a favor, as a mercy, as a virtue from Him. We have made it easy for you in your tongue, meaning in the Arabic language, to put this across to them so that they might remember and they might take heed and they might believe. So wait and take heed of the punishment that's coming, so that they might wait or take heed or also wait for the destruction that's coming upon them. Now, many of the scholars of commentary have said that this has been abrogated by Surah Al-Tawbah, the 9th Surah 5, but this is not correct. Now, we have Surah Al-Jathiyah, which is the 45th Surah. It's been mentioned that this is also called Surah Al-Sharia because the word Sharia appears in this surah. Al-Awfa and Ibn Abi Talha narrate from Ibn Abbas, who stated that this surah is a Meccan surah. This is the statement of Al-Hasan al-Basri, Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl, Mujahid, Qatada, and the vast majority. However, there is an ayah that is from Al-Madinah. So Ibn Abbas and Muqatil mention that there is one ayah that is Medina. قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَغْفِرُوا. Say to those who believe that they forgive. Surah Al-Jathiyah, ayah 14. This is a Medina ayah. The Exalted One, he says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. حميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم إن في السماوات والأرض لآيات للمؤمنين وفي خلقكم وما يبث من دابة آيات لقوم يوقنون واختلاف الليل والنهار وما أنزل الله من السماء من رزق فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وتصريف الرياح آيات لقوم يعقلون تلك آيات الله نتلوها عليك بالحق فبأي حديث بعد الله وآياته يؤمنون ويل لكل أفاك أثيم يسمع آيات الله تتلى عليه ثم يصر مستكبرا كأن لم يسمعها فبشره بعذاب أليم وإذا علم من آياتنا شيئا اتخذها هزوا أولئك لهم عذاب مهين من ورائهم جهنم ولا يغني عنهم ما كسبوا شيئا ولا ما اتخذوا من دون الله أولياء ولهم عذاب عظيم هذا هدى والذين كفروا بآيات ربهم لهم عذاب من رجز أليم الله الذي سخر لكم البحر لتجري الفلك فيه بأمره ولتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون وسخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض جميعا منه إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Hamim, revelation sent down of the book from Allah, the Almighty, the All-Wise. Indeed, in the skies and the earth are signs for those who believe. In your creation and what has been brought about from every creeping beast are signs for a people who are certain. And the alternation of the day and the night and what Allah sent down from the sky, from the sustenance, He enlivened the earth after it was dead and barren. He sends forth the wind as signs for a people who reflect. Those are the signs of Allah. We recite them to you in truth. So which speech after Allah and His ayat will you believe in? Woe be to every craven, sinful liar. He hears the signs of Allah recited to him, then he carries on arrogantly as if he never heard them. Give him the tidings of a tremendous punishment. And when he knows from our signs something, he takes it as a sport and play and jest. These types of people have for them a painful punishment. From behind them is the great fire, and what they had earned from before can be of no help to them, nor those who they took besides Allah as protectors and helpers. They have a great and grievous punishment. This is guidance, and those who reject faith in the signs of their Lord, they have a punishment a punishment that is overwhelming. Allah is the one that subjected to you the oceans, so that you might run your barges and ships across them by His command, and so that you might seek from His sustenance and His favor, and so that you might give thanks to Him. He subjected to you what's in the skies and what's in the earth, all of it from Him. Indeed in that are signs for a people who reflect. Surah Al-Jathiyah, the 45th surah, ayat 1 to 12 to 13. So the Exalted One has said, Hamim, the revelation of the book. We've discussed this in the beginning of Surah Al-Mu'min. In your creation, meaning from the dust, then from sperm, and then the different phases that the human being goes through. and the beasts that have been spread out. So we spread out from all of the creation, all different types of beasts in different shapes and forms. They are signs. What are they signs of? They are signs of his oneness and his unicity. Now, Ibn Kathir, Nafi', and Asim, and Abu-Amr, and Ibn Amr recite this as ayatun, while others recite it differently. And the sending forth of winds as signs. And these winds and other things are also bringing rain. These are the signs of Allah, meaning the proofs of Allah. We recite them to you in truth. So which speech after Allah, meaning after his speech and his signs, will these idol worshippers believe in? Woe be to every craven, sinful liar. Now this was sent down regarding An-Nadr ibn al-Harith. And this was clarified in Surah Al-Shu'ara, the 26th Surah, ayah 222. And furthermore, Surah Luqman, the 31st Surah, ayah 7. And when he comes to know our signs, anything at all, he acts as if he never knew them. He takes them as a sport and play, meaning mocking them, in the same way as Abu Jahl did when Allah talked about the Zaqum, as discussed in Surah Ad-Dukhan, the 43rd and 44th ayat. And when the Zaqum tree was spoken of, the Zaqum tree was referred to as being flaming hot and a food for the sinful people. Abu Jahl mockingly said, well, bring butter and raisins so I can have that with this tree. And what good will it do you if Muhammad can only promise you this? These people, so Allah rejects them by saying, these people, behind them is the great fire. This has been discussed in Surah Ibrahim, the 15th Surah 16. They shall receive no avail or help from that which they earned from before of their wealth, nor what they worshipped of their false gods. This is a guidance, meaning the Quran, and those who reject faith in it shall have a punishment that's to come upon them. Now, the Exalted One mentions the subjugation of all things. And that subjugation was given by Allah from his favor. So that subjugation is from him, not from other than him. And is from his favor and his virtue. Close quote. So just a quick point here. So these ayat, they're called the ayat al-taskhir, the ayat of subjugation, where Allah tells the human being what he's subjugating. So when human beings are pulling things out of the ocean and flying up in the sky and grabbing animals and domesticating them, we're meant to do that. We're meant to do that, to lay down cement, right? Now, what's happening now is there are two big movements that are telling us that no, human beings are part of the animal kingdom and that we're part of the food chain. So we shouldn't be trying to subjugate nature. We should be trying to live alongside of it and to be part of it. There are two main movements. One of them, which is a movement of back to Kemet, which is a sort of Afrocentric type of movement among what are referred to as blacks in the United States. An Afrocentric movement, which is to state that blacks are the super race, they're superior, which is actually just the flip side of white supremacist books. If you want to understand where the people got the idea for the back to Kemet white supremacist books, you have no other place to look than the French Egyptologist books and another book called The Negro and Creation. And there's a chapter that lists that you cannot consider the Negro among the human family because even though he walks upright, and there's all of this biblical exegesis showing that, the Negroes and Africans are not human. And it's the exact same thing that Egyptologists spout off. And they say we're part of nature, not separate to it. And so you'll find people that go into the back to Kemet movement or the Afrocentrist movement. They don't eat carrots because they say carrots are domesticated plants. We don't eat carrots. We don't eat broccoli. We don't eat potatoes because that's not what the original African man had. Anything that you have to prepare or cook is not natural. So there's people that you'll meet that are called raw fruitarians. These are people that only eat seed-bearing foods. And the raw fruitarians, all these different types of people who eat what are called cold foods. They never warm their food. So they eat fruit and veg, no meat. That's not normal because that was domesticated. You eat wild things. So they eat cold fruit and veg. Right? They say whenever you mix fruits together, make sure to mix your citruses so your body can genetically break them down. Because when you mix fruits and vegetables, you are creating a new genetic product that goes into your body, and your body doesn't know what to do with them. So you are creating trials and tribulations. Never mix fruit and veg. Never mix cucumbers and these types of things. Don't eat corn. Corn is manufactured. Human beings aren't meant to eat corn, right? And one of the greatest advocates said that your stool should be enough to where it only fits in the palm of your hand. You should not have larger stools than that because that's going against the African man's nature and so on and so forth, right? Nothing should be manufactured or processed. Now, these people that say back to Kemet, that say they're the original Egyptians, how will they know? We don't know. But they insist that they are. The problem with that is all along the walls in Egypt's ancient past, we can see pictures of ancient Egyptians making mulukhiyah. It's not an Arab dish. It's become an Arab dish. But mulukhiyah, the recipe is on the wall in the pyramids. Which is what? Warming jute leaves, taking cardamom. You are prepping food. Prepping, which you're not supposed to. That's not what the original African man did. Here we have, they seem like 7-foot tall guys in the continent of Africa. They're prepping food. They're making beer, which involves fermentation. They're making bread, which they also said the African is never meant to have bread. And you were never meant to have milk either. Right? So these sound like some of the most unhealthy people you can meet. Now on the white side of this scale, because on the other side of the spectrum are Europeans that formed a movement called primitivism, which is where we need to go back to our primitive roots. You shouldn't go any place where you can't walk or run to or get to by horse. Don't fly. Don't take trains. You shouldn't eat any food that was domesticated. That includes fruit and veg. So these people won't eat fruit and veg that was grown at other farms or whatever. They make their own. They're going back to their primitivist past. No. Here in these ayat, Allah is showing that human beings are outside of the animal kingdom because Allah is saying that these things were subjugated for you. You're not part of them. You are coming to subjugate and use what you need. The proof that human beings aren't part of the animal kingdom is that a human being will look, somehow he'll see in his mind's eye in a forest, and he'll lay cement through that forest. He'll shoo away all the animals, sometimes killing them and eating them. Maybe taking them as trophies and mounting them on his wall. But he'll push all those animals away, and he'll then build houses. He'll then pave around the houses. He'll then create an area for irrigation, an area for sewage, an area for families. He'll create this microcosm. To do what? To shut out and to civilize the world around him. And then animals that he needed, the first dogs were what? The first camels were what? Grabbed by Arabs 4,000 years ago and domesticated. First dogs, wolves, grabbed by Arabs, domesticated, broken in. The first horses, grabbed by Arabs, broken in, domesticated. All these other things, they were done for a reason. The fruit and veg that we have, of course the fruit and the broccoli and the cauliflower and the mustard and the beetroot and everything that we have, of course we've grown certain ones and domesticated other ones. Why? Because when we were looking at other fruit and veg, sometimes they killed us. So we realized, don't eat that one. Or grow this one and then figure out a way to make it most beneficial. I want you to think about this very briefly. I want you to think, because we hear so many things in the news about how we're so much like animals or whatever else. We're just as much animal as a dog. We can't help it. It's our animal feelings. Sex, you got to do it. Murder, you got to do it. I want you to think of how brilliant a man, because most likely it was a man that did this. It's just reality. I want you to think of the type of brilliant mind it must have taken to have looked at wheat, wild wheat growing, and to have thought through the process of taking that wheat, smashing it, cracking it, taking the seeds, milling them, shaking them, running them through some type of straining system, adding a little bit of salt, crushing it into powder, then adding a certain amount of either dirt or salt, adding water, taking eggs, cracking those eggs, mixing in the egg yolk and the egg white, stirring that together, creating a paste, kneading that paste into a large ball, putting it to the side for hours to let it ferment, coming back to that now that's grown, kneading it again, making it into balls and spreading it, putting it into a kiln oven and baking it and making the first bread. Can you imagine how brilliant that man was? Now we take this for granted. Something that could have killed you. If you don't prepare bread properly where it rises or sets, that will make you sick. If you improperly prepare rice, it will kill you. If you improperly can vegetables, you will get botulism and you will die. Every year, people improperly can vegetables and they die from botulism because air gets in or bacteria gets in and they improperly prepare them, then they eat them, then they die. Now think about the brilliant human being. The first human beings that came from the paradise, we had no other application on this planet. And we figured out what spices to mix. Ooh, these are poisonous. Don't eat that. That's poison oak, that's poison ivy. Mix these. These are edible, these spices. These aren't. So the foods that were edible, we did what? We domesticated them so we could grow them in controlled environments. And the foods that weren't, we didn't eat them. And we did what? We used them for medicine. Or we used them to plant to keep away enemies or other animals because we knew they either stunk, they emitted a certain scent, they emitted toxins that kept other animals away. And we knew that because we learned this. Allah taught us a lot of things and gave us a lot of things, but some of it, He let us down here to domesticate, to do taskhir. Taskhir means to subjugate. And that's what people do. When you see a dog walking with his head down with his master, wolves don't walk like that. But dogs do. Why? Because they've been subjugated. They walk with their heads down and their ears are down and they're flappy. Someone had to think of the fact of how will we get it to that way, to where a dog's tail wags. Wolves can't wag their tails. They don't wag. They either stand straight up or they're down. Lions and tigers, they don't wag their tails. They don't flick their tails. Cats do. Can you imagine how brilliant the man was that somehow figured out a way to get something so large down to something so small and say, okay, now this can live inside. Can you imagine how many people might have been killed initially? Trying to figure, okay, I'm going to bring the lion inside. I'm going to bring the tiger inside. It's going to stay with the family. Kids killed, wife killed, husbands going through trial and error. Different men are going through trial and error to figure out how can we make this animal an asset. And finally, the winning formula to get to the process of creating Basset hounds, German shepherds, all originally coming from that wolf dog, the Saluki. People in Germany, Belgium, all these different dogs that have been, hundreds of breeds that have been created because brilliant men thought, how can we better? They didn't try to make a new creation. They didn't try to gene splice. They didn't take the embryo and put it inside of a rabbit embryo, which when it was actually a cow embryo. No, they used what was there and they said, how can we benefit from this? So they did what? They did tazkhir. They subjugated it. Tetley's tea, Lipton tea, those aren't normally growing tea in the wild. Those plants were taken, they were subjugated, they were broken down, they were made until, okay, now these are 5 leaves instead of 7. Because some tea leaves are 7 when they grow in the wild. No, we don't want 7, we want 5. The corn that we eat tastes different. Why? From the wild corn. Why? Because that's not what we wanted. We wanted this type of corn. The wheat that we eat, we wanted this type of wheat. We did this process of tazkhir. So when Allah says, Allah is the one who subjugated for you the oceans. So we had to figure out what type of boats to build. The type of pitch to put on boats so that water wouldn't get in through the wood planks. We had to learn by sailing across and losing men, and they died, that we can't get this far. The first men that sailed around the Cape of Good Hope, we've made it around, and they saw the Antarctic, and they made the map of Antarctica when they sailed around the bottom of Africa and figured it out. When the ancient Egyptians found out that you could navigate the Nino and it would pull you from West Africa into Mexico, they figured it out. All these things were a process of tazkhir, subjugation, right? So we subjugated for you the oceans, for you to pull barges on it, seek your sustenance. He subjugated for you what was in the skies and what was in the earth, all of it. He didn't just say, oh, no, all of it. The aluminum or aluminium that came out of the earth, that's yours to use. It's been subjugated for you. The plastic that came from the dinosaurs that were broken down, that's yours. You've killed some reptiles and left others. You've taken the pearls and left others. That's yours to use. Subjugate it. But don't abuse it. So we've been told to take all these things. These are all signs because human beings couldn't figure a lot of these things out for themselves. We had to figure this out. Allah gave us the tools, much of it. But some of it, we were given it to say, okay, this has been subjugated for you. Now use it. We've laid cement. We've laid cities. Then once we figured out cities, we started deciding, okay, now we're not going to lay cities. We're now going to start creating metropolises and suburbs and inner cities and outer lying areas. So we went from village, town, city, metropolis, outer lying cities. Then you started creating super cities. Los Angeles with 4 downtowns. Someone calls you, where are you? I'm downtown. Which one? Where? Where are you? People don't even know where you are anymore because it's so massive. Human beings have done that. We have first used animals in the space program to launch them and look at footage of them to see how they respond in the space, and they died because we had to figure out how we're going to get out there. And when the first space visits happened, where there were cosmonauts, some of them died, and we had to figure out trial and error. And then finally, we got somebody out there. Then finally, we flew up a space station. We've got to get things moving. Men figured that out. And when I say men, I mean men specifically, but I mean also the rest of the human race, because the proper name is mankind, because the man came first. So all these things were figured out by men, males in a sense, but also mankind in general. To do what? To subjugate things. Why? To make it so it was livable. Because when we first got down here, remember, the jinn had been pushed and left in different dimension. The planet's desolate. Things are overgrown. We come down here. We hadn't lived on a planet where there were rose bushes with thorns. There were all these other things. Right? An atmosphere of 20% oxygen. Who even said that we needed melanin to the degrees that we needed? The paradise doesn't need all these types of things, but we needed them down here. So our bodies had to acclimate. We had to learn to function. We had to learn to do all these different things. Now we just take it for granted. Kids breathe in water in his mother's womb, comes out, learns how to breathe air, and we just think it's as easy as pie. But it's not. We had to go through all these different things. Now we're breathing mist and vapor. Before we're breathing water. But we just take it for granted. Now you throw an adult in water, he drowns. So, because he's drowning, yeah. Well, he used to be able to breathe water, but that's not now, though. He's changed now. He's a different human being now. Now he's breathing vapor, and if you try to make him breathe water, you lose it. He's dead. And sometimes you try to make the baby breathe the vapor, he dies. It's called stillbirth. So it's not as foolproof as you think. Then we have to learn how to function. Now, every now and then, and this will be very brief before we move on, every now and then, man oversteps his bounds. So what does he do? Here's what he does. He's thinking, it sure is a hassle to go through this whole process of kneading dough, leaving it for a certain amount of hours, then making it into balls, creating the bread, putting it in the oven. It's a hassle. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to skip a step in the bread making process. How? We're going to add gluten. Now the bread making process is steps 1 to 7. Gluten goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. So it automatically self-ferments. So what does that do? Well, that creates a chemical reaction that causes the bread to process in a certain way where information is sent out to say that the bread is now ready to be cooked. So what does that cause? Gluten intolerance. Wasn't there before, was it? Well, no. Well, let's look at the year when you first started getting your cases of gluten intolerance. Oh, wow. 1979, 1980. Wow. And when did the gluten start getting added to bread to skip the steps? 1979, 1980. Well, you're skipping steps. So what does that do? People get allergies. Just got allergies. No, he doesn't have allergies. You skip the steps. So what should have happened, the enzymes that should have formed in steps 4 through 6 didn't. So because those enzymes didn't form, he's eating a bread that is acidic and is dangerous to his system, and it can't process it. So what does it do? It rejects it. So he gets hives, or he breaks out, or he's throwing up. When peanuts are grown by certain organizations, they skip the steps in the growing. Steps 7 through 10. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. So what happens? People allergic to nuts. Fatal. Why? Because he skipped some steps. People are now, in certain areas, eating food out of season from where it would normally grow. So what happens? They're getting allergies, they're getting problems with the pollen, everything else. And then they're eating bee honey that's composed of 7, 8, 10 different types of honey from different countries. Rather than the local honey, which has the antidote for the local pollen. So what happens? They're getting sicker. Yes, eat the honey. There's barakah in it. It will help you. Well, some brother eats the honey. It doesn't work. He's thinking, what's going on here? The doctor says, well, you've tried it your way. Now we're going to give you this medication. Whereas what he needs to do is, if he's in Seattle, Washington, and he's getting sick and his eyes are puffy and big, 3 months before summer kicks in, he should be having honey on a regular basis, even 2-3 spoonfuls a day. Local honey from local beekeepers. What does that do? Builds up an immunity, builds up a tolerance, which eventually he won't have that anymore, that allergy. Now, if he moves somewhere else, it could start again where he has to have, okay, now he's got to eat that local honey. So Taskhir, subjugation, that's a part of what men do. That's a part of being a man, is subjugating stuff. The first time you figure out how to ride a motorcycle, the first time you break in a horse, the first time you figure out when you're teaching your kids to read in their ABCs, that's subjugation. Don't use baby language anymore. We use this now. The first time you figure out how to ride your bike where you stop falling off. The first time you figure out how to hang glide. The first time you figure out how to abseil. The first time you jump out of a perfectly functioning plane with a parachute on and you land safely and don't break your legs. The stuff, it becomes a process of subjugation. We're in flying cities now. 700, 1,000-seater planes flying across the world in cities. That's the size of a village or town in some countries. And we're just doing it like that. I have to catch a red-eye flight from here to New York. We're there in 2 hours. That's taskhir, that's subjugation. We couldn't do that before. We fly over the ocean. That's good, but it's bad when you exaggerate. But it's good that that's what people are doing. That's what we're supposed to do. Because Allah told us, I've subjugated this stuff for you to use. So you might think of the signs of Allah. Now, when you stop yatafakkarun, when you stop tashkurun, when you stop all these things, that's when you go astray. Not the fact that technology is a problem, but when you stop doing shukr, when you stop doing tafakkur, that is when the taskhir becomes a problem. Because your taskhir now becomes what? Aliyah. It becomes exaltation. Yes, I did it because I just am who I am. I'm the greatest. No one can stop me. We have complete air superiority. We own the air. When you start using these types of things, and you start naming shuttles the Challenger, right? All these types of things, or the invincible, or the unsinkable, and you start using this type of language, you're no longer doing shukr and tafakkur. Now you're exalting yourself. So this ayah, these are called ayatul taskhir by the scholars. And they're important ayat. These aren't the only ones, but they're the main ones where Allah delineates and says these particular things. So human beings shouldn't be morbid about, oh, we need to figure out how to better get along with nature. No. If I have a double-barrel Mossberg shotgun and I see a bear outside, I'm not getting along with it. I'm killing it. I'm subjugating it. I'll take the hide, shave the fur off, sell it on. That's what I do. Because I'm a man, I subjugate stuff. Where else is the sheep going to live? I've subjugated it now. It can't live in the wild. It's going to be on someone's plate. So what happens? I have to take care of the sheep now. I have to take care of the goat. I have to take care of the chicken. I bred them so they can't fly anymore. So people say, oh, we need to stop being cruel to animals and release them. Okay, we've released all the chickens now. And fly where? They can't even fly. You know, they don't even fly south anymore. They don't even have seasonal internal tracking to fly south like the rest of the birds do anymore. Why? Because we bred that out of them. Why? Because we didn't want that. Because we wanted to eat them. We wanted to eat them and have their eggs. So they don't fly south. They don't fly at all. The beaks, we've shortened their beaks. Why? Because we don't want them pecking us when we grab their eggs. And when they peck us, we want the least damage possible. And we want their wings a little bit smaller so they can't get away, so we can catch them and cut their throats and cut their heads off and make soups out of their bodies. And stuff them full of stuffing and put them in the oven. That's what we do. You think you could do that with a hawk? Or a condor? Or a stork? You'd be dead. We subjugated these animals. Now they can't go back to the way they were. We try to push them away, they come back. Try to get rid of a dog that you've owned for a long time. Get out of here, you're free. Don't know what that means. Free means nothing. Free means slavery to him now. Because the only freedom he knows is you. Yeah, he gets excited when you're about to put the leash around his neck to take him on a walk. He's excited about that. Can't wait to have that leash around my neck, the sign of my servitude. Come up to my master, head down, lick his hand. When you really look at these things in reality, that's slavery. But Allah told us to do that. Get down there and do that. Okay. So we do it. Our kids come, when the kids are small, they have their head down, they kiss your hand, they hold on to you, they grab you. That's taskhir. Now as they get older, we teach them taskhir as men. Listen, you have to subjugate that stuff. And at first they have to learn these things. At first they're cruel. because they don't understand the world around them. So they burn ants. They destroy property. They grab cats' tails. They have the correct idea, but the implementation is wrong. But they're supposed to subjugate the world around them. Right? They exalt themselves over their sisters. They push their younger brothers down. All these types of things are signs of taskhir. It's wrongly implemented, but it's true. Because there is a pecking order in creation. And when you have real milk and you boil it, the cream rises to the top. That's why we keep score in football and basketball and baseball. Because someone has to win. And the guy that doesn't win, well, he just wasn't good enough. But the guy that did, he's number one. And all this is taskhir. People don't like it, but alhamdulillah, those people aren't running the world. Because you have an even world, you don't win, you don't produce food, you have nothing. So taskhir is a part of life. People might not like it, but it's the reality. It's where you get your chicken from, it's where you get your rice from. Next time you're speaking to a vegetarian, ask him, where in the wild does celery grow? Can you show me an example of wild potatoes? Wild beetroot? While you're at it, where did carrots come from? Where did yellow corn come from? Sounds like maybe some man thought that up. I can't stress to you how important this is. We're the people to do this stuff. Our problem is no shukr and no tafakkur, so we keep tampering with things, then we exaggerate. But taskhir is never wrong. Now, the Imam rahimahullah, he says after this, quote, and the Exalted One, after saying that all things have been subjugated and have been put, now this expression could be minhu or mannuhu, but both of them convey the same meaning, whether it's jami'an minhu or jami'an mannahu. Then the Exalted One, he says, قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَغْفِرُوا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ أَيَّامَ اللَّهِ لِيَجْزِيَ قوما بما كانوا يكسبون من عمل صالحا فلنفسه ومن أساء فعليها ثم إلى ربكم ترجعون ولقد آتينا بني إسرائيل الكتاب والحكم والنبوة ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على العالمين وآتيناهم بينات من الأمر فما اختلفوا إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم إن ربك يقضي بينهم يوم القيامة فيما كانوا فيه يختلفون ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون إنهم لن يغنوا عنك من الله شيئا وإن الظالمين بعضهم أولياء بعض والله ولي المتقين هذا بصائر للناس وهدى ورحمة لقوم يوقنون أم حسب الذين اجترحوا السيئات أن نجعلهم كالذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وعملوا الصالحات سواء محياهم ومماتهم ساء ما يحكمون وخلق الله السماوات والأرض بالحق ولتجزى كل نفس بما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون. Say to those who believe to forgive towards those who do not hope for the days of Allah, so that a people might be rewarded for that which they earned. Whoever did righteous deeds, then it's for himself, and whoever was sinned against himself, then it's against himself. And to your Lord you shall all return. We had given the children of Israel the book, the judgment, the prophethood, and we sustained them from the good things, and we preferred them over all other nations. We gave them the clear signs from the command, and they did not differ except after there came to them the clear knowledge and wrongdoing among themselves. Your Lord shall judge between them on the day of resurrection and that which they used to differ in. Then we placed you on a revealed law from the command and the order. So follow it. Do not follow the vain desires of those who do not believe. Indeed, they shall never be of any benefit to you from Allah at all. Indeed, the oppressors are protectors to one another. Allah is the protector of the pious. This is a set of insights and inferences to humanity, a guidance and a mercy to a people who are certain. Or do those who have been injured by their sins think that we shall make them like those who believe and do righteous deeds and equal in their lives and death, in their lives and their death? Evil is that which they judge by. Allah created the skies and the earth in truth, so that every soul might be rewarded according to what it earned, and they shall not be oppressed. Surah Al-Jathiyah, the 45th surah, ayat 14 to 22. When the Exalted One has said, say to those who believe that they should show forgiveness. The revelation of this came about because there was a battle of the Banu Mustalaq, and they came to a well, and it was said that this well was called Al-Marisi', and Abdullah ibn Abi Ghulama was sent to take some water, and he brought the water there, and it was said to him, what is your matter? He said, I am the helper of Umar, and no one can bring the water or fill the buckets of the Prophet ﷺ except for me and the buckets of Abu Bakr. So he filled the buckets of both of them. And Abdullah has said, well, look at the example of what's been done by this individual who's filled the buckets. It's like this individual is like a dog, and he shall eat in the same way as one. This news reached Umar, who unsheathed his sword and went looking for the person who said this remark. And so this ayah was sent down that he might show forgiveness. Furthermore, Allah had sent down, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. Who is then the one who can loan Allah a goodly loan? Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd surah, ayat 245. A Jewish man came to Medina, his name was Finhas, and he said, oh, I will argue with the Lord of Muhammad. When Umar heard that, he unsheathed his sword and went searching for the man. And the angel Jibreel alayhi salam came with this ayah. And the Prophet ﷺ went out in search of Umar. And when he came, he said, Umar, put your sword away. And he recited that ayah to him. And this was mentioned by Ibn Abbas. Also remember that there were people from the companions of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from Mecca that were in hardship and trial because the idol worshippers were terrorizing them. And they were putting them under great trial. And they complained of that to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And this ayah was mentioned to them to keep them steadfast, as said by Al-Qurdi and As-Sudai. Also, a man from the unbelievers of the Quraysh once slandered Umar ibn al-Khattab, and Umar felt anger and gripped the man to do something to him. But this ayah was recited to remind him, as mentioned by Muqatil. So this ayah is, say to those who believe, forgive. But the issue is, what is the condition of the forgive? Because this is a conditional expression. Just as much as when Allah says, قُلْ لِلْعِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, say to those who believe that they establish the prayer. Surah Ibrahim, the 15th Surah, ayah 31. And we've already clarified this conditional expression. لِلَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ, say to those who do not hope, meaning those who have no fear of what Allah did to previous nations, because they don't believe in Allah, and they don't fear His punishment, and they don't know the favors of Allah upon them. So the days of Allah has been mentioned in Surah Ibrahim, the 15th Surah, ayah 5. So forgive them for these things. Now, the vast majority of the scholars of commentary have said that this ayah was abrogated by Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, ayah 5. Because the original judgment regarding the torture and trials of the unbelievers and idol worshippers was to repel it by accepting it. However, the scholars differ in the abrogation of this ayah, because the first statement is when Allah said, فَاقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثَ وَجَدْتُمُوهُم, Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, ayah 5. Now, there is also the statement of Allah, فَإِمَّا تَثْقَفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْحَرْبِ, and if you should actually go towards them in war, Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, 36. وَقَاتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً, and fight the idol worshippers all together. Now these ayat, Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, ayah 5, Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th Surah, ayah 57, and Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, ayah 36. These were all discussed by Qatada. And there is another ayah, أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا, permission was given to those who fight to fight against those. Permission was given to those who were oppressed, that they might fight back against those who oppressed them. Surah Al-Hajj, the 22nd Surah, ayah 39. So the exact depth to which this was abrogated does not mean that it's absolute, but that it is conditional, the same way as the abrogation was conditional, which is why the scholars of commentary have differed. لِيَجْزِيَ قَوْمًا, so that a people might be rewarded, meaning the unbelievers, so that they might be sufficed, so that they might be rewarded for what they brought about on their own hands. Surah Al-Isra, the 17th Surah, ayah 7. Up until where Allah said, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْكِتَابِ, we gave the children of Israel the book, meaning the Torah, and the judgment, meaning the understanding of that judgment. And we sustained them with the good things, meaning the manna and the salwa. And we favored them over the nations, meaning over the nations of their time. And we gave them the clear signs of the order. Clear signs of the order was what is permitted, what is impermissible, said by As-Sudai. The knowledge of the coming of the Prophet ﷺ, the evidences of his prophethood, is said by Mawardi. Any ayat after this have already been discussed in Surah Al-Imran, the 3rd Surah, ayah 19. But when Allah the Exalted has said, we put you on a revealed law from before. This was sent down because the heads of the Quraysh called the Messenger of Allah ﷺ to follow the religion of his ancestors that came before him. And this ayah was sent down to refute that. As far as the statement, ala shari'atin, on the revealed law, meaning on that original religion, on that religion, the original way. That is the way. Now, the meaning of sharia means the fresh water that is found after being excavated. The sharia, the revealed law, is what is compulsory, what must be known. So here Allah is saying, we put you after Musa on the way of the matter, meaning the deen, the original religion that was reestablished. So another prophet was sent. So follow it and not those who have followed their desires. And those who do not believe, the unbelievers of Quraysh, they shall never benefit you or be able to withstand the punishment of Allah. Indeed, the oppressors, meaning the idol worshippers, they oppress themselves. And Allah has mentioned as well that He is the protector of the pious ones. He says further to this, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ وَخَتَمَ عَلَى سَمْعِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَجَعَلَ على بصره غشاوة فمن يهديه من بعد الله أفلا تذكرون وقالوا ما هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما يهلكنا إلا الدهر وما لهم بذلك من علم إن هم إلا يظنون وإذا تتلى عليهم آياتنا بينات ما كان حجتهم إلا أن قالوا ائتوا بآبائنا إن كنتم صادقين قل الله يحييكم ثم يميتكم ثم يجمعكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون ولله ملك السماوات والأرض ويوم تقوم الساعة يومئذ يخسر المبطلون وترى كل أمة جاثية وكل أمة تدعى إلى كتابها اليوم تجزون ما كنتم تعملون هذا كتابنا ينطق عليكم بالحق إنا كنا نستنسخ ما كنتم تعملون فأما الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيدخلهم ربهم في رحمته ذلك هو الفوز المبين وأما الذين كفروا أفلم تكن آياتي تتلى عليكم فاستكبرتم وكنتم قوما مجرمين وإذا قيل إن وعد الله حق والساعة لا ريب فيها قلتم ما ندري ما الساعة إن نظن إلا ظنا وما نحن بمستيقنين وبدا لهم سيئات ما عملوا وحاق بهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون وقيل اليوم ننساكم كما نسيتم لقاء يومكم هذا ومأواكم النار وما لكم من ناصرين ذلكم بأنكم اتخذتم آيات الله هزوا وغرتكم الحياة الدنيا فاليوم لا يخرجون منها ولا هم يستعتبون فلله الحمد رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم ما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى والذين كفروا عما أنذروا معرضون قل أرأيتم ما تدعون من دون الله أروني ماذا خلقوا من الأرض أم لهم شرك في السماوات ائتوني بكتاب من قبل هذا أو أثارة من علم إن كنتم صادقين ومن أضل ممن يدعو من دون الله من لا يستجيب له إلى يوم القيامة وهم عن دعائهم غافلون. Have you not seen the one who took his desires as his God, and Allah led him astray on that knowledge, and put a seal on his hearing, his heart, and he made on his sight to have a dark film and blockage? Who is it that can guide someone after Allah? Do you not think and remember? And they say, there is no life except this earthly life. We live and we die, and nothing kills us except for time. They have no knowledge of that except that which they suppose. When our signs are recited to them that are clear and evident, they have no evidence except to say, bring back our forefathers if what you're saying is true. Say, Allah shall give you life, He shall give you death, then He shall gather you on the day of resurrection, in which there's no doubt therein. But most of humanity do not know. Allah possesses the skies, the earth, and on the day of resurrection, when it is established, the very hour on that day, those who deny shall be laid low. You will see every nation gathered and waiting at its time. Every nation shall be called to its book on that day, and it shall be rewarded for what it used to do. This is our book. It shall speak against you with truth. Indeed, we shall draw out and bring to pass that which you used to do. As for those who believe and do righteous deeds, their Lord shall enter them into His mercy. That is the clear salvation. As for those who reject faith, the signs that are recited to them are not for them to take except that you were arrogant and you were a people that were criminal. So is it not that the signs were recited to you and you were arrogant to them and you were a criminal people? When it is said, indeed the promise of Allah is true, in the hour there's no doubt therein, you said, we don't know of any hour. We think that this is just supposition and we don't know for sure of this matter. It became clear to them the sins of that which they did, and there shall be brought to bear that which they mocked at beforehand. It will be said on that day, we shall forget you, just as you forgot the meeting on this day of yours. And the fire is your meeting point, and you shall not have any protectors or helpers. That is because you took the signs of Allah as a sport, a play, and a joke, and you were deceived by this earthly life. So today, they shall not be brought out from it, nor shall they have any relief. To Allah is the praise, the Lord of the skies and the Lord of the earth, the Lord of all creation. He possesses the righteousness and the majesty. In the skies and the earth, He is the all-powerful, the almighty, the all-wise. Surah Al-Jathiyah, the 45th surah, ayat 23 to 37. And so when the Exalted One has mentioned these matters, He mentioned the revealed law and the oppressors. But then He said, have you not remembered those who were injured by their sin? Now, those who were injured by their sin, this ayah was revealed, that the unbelievers of Mecca, they said to the believers, indeed, what shall we be given in the hereafter, like what we were given in reward? So they were asking this question to rebuke, because they were blinded by their sins. Their life and their death blinded them to their sins. So these people, there were righteous people who were not like these. They lived as believers and they died as believers. Then the opposite of them were those who they lived as unbelievers and they died as unbelievers. So there are two categories of people, but their state and their end is the same in the sense that they lived as unbelievers and died as such. Evil is that which they used to judge by. And then Allah mentions the creation of the skies and the earth and truth. And the truth meaning that there's a reward coming at the end of that. That justice shall come at the end of that. And so that no unbeliever should think that he's getting away with his unbelief. Now Allah the Exalted then says, have you not seen the one who took his desires as his God? We've explained this ayah which occurs in Surah Al-Furqan, the 25th surah, ayah 43. Muqatil said this ayah was sent down regarding Al-Harith ibn Qais as-Sahmi. And Allah has led him astray with that knowledge. Meaning, the knowledge, ala ilmin, meaning the pre-eternal knowledge that Allah knew that he would not be guided. And He put a seal on his hearing so that he could not hear the guidance. And on his heart so that he could not reflect the guidance. And He mentioned the film with a dark layer. And these things in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd surah, ayah 7. So after Allah, who can guide someone in such a state? Meaning, after Allah has decreed a matter, who can stop it? Do you not remember? Meaning, do you not know the power of Allah to do what He wills? And after this, the ayat after these have already been explained in Surah Al-Mu'minun, the 23rd surah, ayah 37. But then Allah mentions the idol worshippers. We live and we die. Nothing kills us except for time. Meaning the passing of the night and day. But they have no real knowledge of that. They speak without knowledge. They only say it because they're doubting. And because of this, our Prophet ﷺ said to them, because some people look at time as a god, like a father. So He said, do not curse time, because Allah, He is the time, meaning He is the one that shall cause you to die. Not that His name is time, or not that they should think that the passing of time kills you. So what's after this is clear. The ayat that come after this ayah are self-evident. And we've already explained them in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd surah, ayah 28. And Surah Al-Shura, the 42nd surah, ayah 7. But then Allah, when He says, يَخْسَرُ الْمُبْطِلُونَ, that the deniers are laid low, the people of falsehood, and their falsehood shall be manifest on that day. And you will see every nation, every ummah, meaning every religion, gathered, or sitting, or standing. They are all together on that day. And every nation shall be called to its book, meaning the book of righteous deeds and sinful deeds, as said by Ibn Abbas, and its book of reckoning, because every ummah shall be reckoned, as said by Ibn Qutaybah. The book which was sent down on its messenger, as said by Al-Mawardi, the day in which you shall be rewarded for that which you used to do. This is our book. meaning the book of deeds, which the noble writers, the Kiram al-Katibin, wrote down. The portion of the preserved tablet that is for them, as said by Muqatil. The Quran that has been given, because the nations knew, and the proof was given of the unbelievers in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and those that came after. And we shall bring to bear that which you did. Meaning, here Allah is saying we shall order the angels to bring to bear that which had been brought out of your deeds that had been written and established. Most of the commentators say that this is referring to not just their righteous and evil deeds, but also what was written about them in the preserved tablet, and what the angels write down every year from the deeds of the children of Adam. And you shall find that agreeing to what they did. And all of this goes back to the basis of what's in the original book, the original ordainment, which is in the preserved tablet. And the two recording angels raise all of this up, and Allah establishes in it reward and punishment and what He so wills of it. And the noble preservers, their records are established with Allah the Exalted. And they are in His mercy, the believers. His mercy refers to His paradise. And are signs, meaning the ayat of the Quran were recited upon you and you were arrogant, too arrogant to have faith in them. And you were a criminal people, unbelieving, as said by Ibn Abbas. And when it said, indeed the promise of Allah is true, the resurrection, it shall come to pass, the hour, there's no doubt in it, meaning it's coming without any doubt. That you said, we don't know of any hour. So you denied the hour. We thought of it nothing except for doubts. So we don't know anything but doubts and what people are talking about, and we're not certain of its coming to pass. Whatever comes after that ayah, we already discussed in Surah Al-Zumar, the 39th Surah, ayah 48, up until the expression, and it will be said, today we forget you, meaning we abandon you in the fire. Just as you forgot the meeting today, meaning just as you forgot Iman and acting by righteousness and the meeting of this day, so we abandon you just as you abandoned Iman and righteous deeds. That which we did to you is because you took the signs of Allah as a jest, and you were deceived by the earthly life until you said, there's no resurrection, there's no reckoning. Today, they shall not be brought out. They shall not be brought to pass. They shall not be shown relief from the fire, nor shall they be given any respite. They have no hope, and they will not be allowed to return to earth and obey Allah, because there is no way to repent or have an excuse after. And He, Allah, possesses the authority, the righteousness, the honor, the dignity, and the governance, as said by Mujahid, as well as Ibn Zayd and Az-Zajjaj and Yahya ibn Salam. Surah Al-Ahqaf is the 46th surah. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said it was sent down in Mecca. This is the same statement of Al-Hasan al-Basri, Mujahid, Ikrimah, Qatada, and the vast majority. However, Ibn Abbas and Qatada say that there are Medinan ayat in it. So it is Meccan with the exception of the following ayat. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Say, have you seen? Have you come to know if it is from the sight of Allah? Surah Al-Ahqaf, ayah 10. Muqatil said the same thing, but also mentioned فَاصْبِرْ كَمَا صَبَرَ أُولُو الْعَزْمِ مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. Be patient, just as the ul-Azm from the messengers were patient. Surah Al-Ahqaf, ayah 35. As for the Hamim and the opening expression, We already discussed this in the opening of Surah Al-Mu'min and Surah Al-Hijr, Ayah 85. And the Exalted One has spoken the truth in this regard. Now, when the Exalted One says that He created everything and what's between them, in truth, for a defined period, this means until they fade away, and that is on the day of resurrection. And then when the Exalted One says, have you not seen, which is explained in Surah Fatir, the 35th Surah, Ayah 40, up until the ayah, so bring me the book. Now this ayah is explaining that all the creations, everything, have you not seen what you call them from besides Allah? Show me what they created from the earth. Or do you have partners in the skies? So bring me a book from before this, or some evidence of knowledge if you're truthful. This means a book that explains these matters, that had the whole listing of all the nations from before this, from before the Quran, that had proof of what you're claiming, that the idols were partners for Allah, or some proof of knowledge, something that indicates the falsehood that you taught, some evidence, a sign of knowledge, some sign of proof, something etched in stone or on tablets that could be given. This was mentioned by Ibn Qutaybah, Az-Zujjaj, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, and others. So the knowledge being made reference to was any knowledge of the previous books, or knowledge of a book that told you to commit idolatry. But there is no such proof of any book. And the Exalted One, who is more astray than the one who calls on someone besides Allah who cannot answer him until the day of resurrection, and they are heedless of their supplication? The one who cannot answer him means the idols, and they are heedless of his supplications because they are solid and stone, they don't hear. And when the day of resurrection is established, those gods will be enemies to their worshippers in the earthly life. But all the falsehood that they've mentioned about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about him reciting the Quran and the Quran being magic, or that he fabricated it, is utter and complete falsehood. Close quote. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم أستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم يا حميد الراحمين. Is there any question over what we covered so far today? Yes.
I just want to know, is the place Himyar, did you say that was in Yemen?
Yes, that's correct.
Is it a city?
Himyar is a section of Yemen. And Himyar had Yemen's first kingdom. It's still a popular place today. There's some fuqaha that come there, some scholars that come there. So Himyar was, if we remember from the Sirah, Himyar was a very important point for the kingdoms of Yemen, and how the monarchies that started there, and some of the later companions came from there too.
Do they still call it Himyar, or is it?
Yeah, there's still some places there in Himyar. Yes. A lot of other places might refer to it as Yemen, but if you say, I want to look at Himyar, they can take you to the ruins. Some of Himyar is just ruins where you can just look at it and see it today. But a lot of it is still populated and lived in. Yes? Questions? Yes. No.
Okay. You know when you mentioned that the disbelievers will be drinking boiling water in hellfire, and Allah will rebuke them and say that, do you still think you're mighty, or something along the lines of that? Will he be directly saying that, or will he be saying that through an angel? Because I know elsewhere it's narrated that Allah doesn't speak to the disbelievers.
question is regarding Allah speaking to the unbelievers on the day of resurrection and whether He'll be addressing them directly in the fire or whether it will be through an angel. From what we were given in that ayah, it looks to be the case that Allah is addressing them directly. Right. But through other ayat, yes, angels are speaking. But in that ayah, they're being addressed directly by Him.
Okay, so the previous ayahs where it says that Allah talks to disbelievers through the angels, that's not absolute then.
It's not
In some
absolute.
cases He will speak directly to
That's correct.
Okay. Also, you mentioned
Zabaniya, yes.
What others are they like?
The Zabaniya are the angels of wrath. They're mentioned in Surah Iqra, the first surah in the Quran. They're mentioned in the last few ayat.
So they will be sort of
These are the angels of wrath. That's it. So these are angels that they rebuke the unbelievers. They rebuke these people. They're guardians. Unbelievers desire to come out or seek to try to come out, and they're given a further wrath. The Zabaniya. In fact, it was of these that when the Zabaniya are 19, and when Abu Jahl was told that they are 19, he said, well, that's a small number. There's enough of us to give them all they can handle, right? So this is what was said. So yeah, there's a very famous incident regarding the Zabaniya and Abu Jahl.
One more question.
Sure.
You mentioned 7 years of famine.
Yes.
Like that happened during the time of Yusuf. How widespread was it during in Arabia? Was it just hitting those specific cities where those people disbelieved, or did it? How wide across was it, and how effective was it? Can you see?
So the question is the questions regarding the famine in the time of the Prophet ﷺ of 7 years that was to be a punishment in severity, like the famine at the time of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. How widespread was it? Most of the hadith literature that we have says Mecca. So the impact was Mecca. So that's what we have to work with.
Is there any sort of like geological studies done on that? Or
I don't know, because famines you can check from. Famines you can mainly check in terms of historical data on chronicles, historical accounts from people. Geologically, famines are hard to prove because crops thinning out. Crops have periods where they thin and where they're plenty. And you can't always establish through geological means whether a famine has happened. You'd mainly try to establish through looking at crypts, excavated bodies, crop failures, seasonal things like looking at sometimes you can analyze people's stool or their droppings to see if they're malnourished, to look at the skeletal remains and things like this. Now, this may have been done. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Any other questions? No? So there's no further questions, and we'll close here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك إنه غفور رحيم رحيم الراحمين ولا إله إلا الله والسلام عليكم.